What the Actual Fork podcast is co-hosted by two intuitive eating registered dietitians, yours truly, Sammy Previtt, owner of Fine Food Freedom, and Jenna Warner, owner of Happy, Strong, Healthy. We can't stand diet culture bullshit and love keeping it real. Our mission is for all humans to believe that they are made for so much more than chasing a smaller body. We are also here to share with you that food can be fun and pleasurable again. Although we are medical professionals, we are human too. We are not afraid to share our deepest, darkest secrets and how years of our lives were taken by diet culture. We started this podcast so no human has to feel alone in their journey towards food freedom. So get comfy and join us for a casual convo where you can expect to laugh, cry, learn, and welcome back to another episode of What the Actual Fork podcast. I hope your first week of 2021 has been everything that you've hoped and dreamed it to be. But we're super excited for today's episode with Rachael Hartley. She's a registered dietitian. She is absolutely a non-diet, health at every size, intuitive eating RD, and just happened to write an amazing book that will be out very shortly, all about gentle nutrition, which what a better time to talk about that, because if you are getting inundated with be healthy this year, or what diet are you doing this year, this is going to be a great place to start.
And my first question is are you loving the new name? I'm still getting used to it. It's getting so exciting. We want to hear your feedback. Share with us. It just feels so much more us. I'm obsessed. But two, we also share how you can pre-order this book from Rachael. We share so many tips and why we both think it's so important that all of our clients and just people interested in the intuitive eating space and learning more, why this book is going to be so important. So you can pre-order it now. Sam and I already did that. We're super excited to support Rachael and just excited for you to hear more about what gentle nutrition really means.
Yes. And I feel like we talked about so many things, but I feel like the biggest thing that's sticking in my brain since our conversation is like redefining the word health or healthy. Yes. And what that really truly means, which was just so cool to see. So this is going to be a great resource for so many people. And if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoy our previous episodes, please, if you could rate, review, send it to a friend, we would so greatly appreciate that.
Make sure you follow along.
Yes. So let's jump right in and take it away with Rachael Hartley. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're super excited because we have one of our favorite non-diet dietitians, also an intuitive eating dietitian. We have Miss Rachael Hartley here. Rachael, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
We have so much excitement to talk about.
Yes. So much excitement. And I know I just hit record, but I just shared like a deep, dark secret of my obsession with St. Bernards off air. And Rachael just happens to have a St. Bernard dog. So I'm super excited about that. But we're definitely going to want to get to know you before we jump in. But for people listening, we're so excited because we've definitely talked about gentle nutrition in our episodes, but we've never had like one full episode dedicated to gentle nutrition. So we're so excited to just like hand that over to you and let you run with it. So I'm going to let Jenna do a little game with you first, and then we'll jump right in.
Jenna only has 3 out of the 6 that she needs so far. So these are going to be really off the cuff. So we're going to start with coffee or tea.
Oh, coffee, which I am drinking right now. So absolutely. Our coffee pot just broke this morning. So this is like sad instant coffee.
You know what? You got to try the whipped TikTok coffee with that. Cause when quarantine started and that was like the biggest trend, I think I made it every day before I found out I was pregnant. And it's like the most caffeine, but delicious use of instant coffee.
Yeah, I was laying in so I missed all the early, TikTok quarantine food trends.
I'll send you some inspo when we're done.
Okay, cool.
All right, so now we're on to a theme here. Crunchy or soft baked cookies?
Oh, I'm definitely soft. Yes, yeah.
Right? But I feel like the Tates sometimes like steer me a little bit, like they are pretty good, but okay, I feel you there. Crunchy or soft taco?
Oh, soft taco too. Yeah.
Smooth or crunchy peanut butter?
Smooth.
Can I do any more crunchies here? I don't know if I have any others.
I have some. Are you a
Go.
salty or sweet girl?
Salty and cheese. Like, I know that wasn't part of it.
I always like to ask, and especially because you are a chef here. So, what about soft boiled or hard boiled egg? Do you have a preference?
Oh yeah, soft boiled. Like I love like a poached egg is
Same.
yes, amazing. And I'm really bad at doing it, but I like it when someone does it for me.
They're really hard to do. All right, so one more, and when let's go with it. Pumpkin spice or peppermint mocha?
Oh, peppermint mocha. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
so hot chocolate season.
I was like nervous about these questions. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to know the answer. And they were all so easy. They were the things I'm very strong
The one thing
about.
I have guided myself into a big hole this morning on this vein of, have you seen the hot cocoa bombs that people are now posting about? Tell me you've made one and teach me.
Oh my gosh, I have not. Like, what? I don't spend that much time in the and even that is just like.
But you can't order them; they're all on back order, of course. So
What
after
is
this,
you bomb you're speaking of?
It's literally like this chocolate coating with marshmallows and cocoa in it, and you put it in warm milk, and it explodes, and it turns into like hot chocolate. And you know I'm obsessed. So anyways, last question. If you could have anything in this world in limitless quantities that can't be money, what would it be?
I mean, can we go back to the cheese? I missed that.
Yes.
No puppies, actually. I take that back because I want to be able to give my attention to very specific to like two very special dogs. So yes, so maybe not that. Cheese.
Perfect answer. You played perfectly.
Yeah, you were very firm in all of those answers, and that was awesome because sometimes you're like, I don't know, but you knew exactly what you like.
I'm very indecisive. I'm pretty impressed with myself, not gonna lie.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, let's jump right into today's topic. So we're talking all things gentle nutrition, but before we even get into it, I would love for you to tell listeners, I know you have a book coming out, I believe February 23rd, the last time I heard. So congratulations. And just tell us, what is this book about?
Yeah, so yes, February 23rd, my book, Gentle Nutrition, is coming out. And basically, I wanted to create a resource that really dove into the nutrition aspect of intuitive eating. You know, there's always been in different like Facebook groups for dietitians, and then with conversations with clients, like I feel like there's always a lot of questions about gentle nutrition. And as intuitive eating dietitians, I think that sometimes we don't focus on that principle for a very good reason. You know, when you're on social media, you are talking to a whole array of people, and many of which are actively struggling with eating disorders and disordered eating. You don't know what, how someone is going to latch onto the information that you share, and whether it's going to get turned into a diet rule. And also too, just the fact that like, in order to engage with gentle nutrition, we really have to do some work healing our relationship with food. So there's very, very good reasons why nutrition is sort of deprioritized, I guess you could say, within conversations about intuitive eating. And yet, one of the things that I find that does is that it creates this space where gentle nutrition is a bit of a mystery. And when people don't really have a conceptualization of like what nutrition looks like in a flexible way, there's a lot more room for diet culture to sneak in. So I really wanted to create a resource that, that talked about, explored gentle nutrition, gave really solid, like evidence-based nutrition advice, but presented it in a way that's flexible and not rigid. And I just wanted to help people create like kind of an on-ramp to intuitive eating. Like a lot of people, because so many people learn about intuitive eating through Instagram, through social media. I wanted to, and they get this impression that like, oh, it's anti-nutrition. Obviously, that is not what intuitive eating is, but that is a conception or a misconception, I should say, that's out there. So I wanted to create a resource that would help address some of those concerns people have.
That was so beautifully said. And honestly, can you just, for some of our listeners, because sometimes I see in the comment section that not all of our listeners are on an intuitive eating journey yet. But for those that maybe are not as familiar with it, can you share where gentle nutrition falls in the principles?
Yeah, so in the intuitive eating books, they're based off of 10 principles, and technically honor your health with gentle nutrition. That is the last principle, and the idea of putting it back there is that kind of getting back to what I was saying before. In order to engage with gentle nutrition, we have to do some solid work, healing our relationship with food first. If we try to jump straight into nutrition, it's so easy to turn, flexible, what might be like practical nutrition advice. It's so easy to turn that into a food rule. Excuse me. It's easy for that to get wrapped up in diet culture. So when we have a good basis of intuitive eating and the other principles, it makes it a bit easier for us to bring gentle nutrition in. But of course, I think what most intuitive eating dietitians recognize is that when you're actually working with human beings in front of you who are at all different places and have all different sorts of wishes and hopes and desires and goals, that it's not as if intuitive eating is this thing that we go through in a stepwise pattern. It's not like, hey, here's your first session, we're going to reject the diet mentality today, and next week we're honoring our hunger. Like, it's not this step-by-step process. And sometimes like understanding and bringing gentle nutrition in really early on, that can actually help people in their food peace journey. And not only that, and this is kind of another piece of what this book seeks to do, but when we understand what gentle nutrition actually is, it can actually be a really helpful tool in making peace with food. Like when we understand and unlearn all this like diet culture BS about nutrition that we've picked up, like it can be one tool or one way that we can progress on our journey. So yeah.
I love that. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I would love to hear how you would respond if someone comes up to you and says, oh, you're an intuitive eating dietitian? Oh, okay. So you just tell people to eat whatever the hell they want and you don't care about health. How would you respond to that, Rachel?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would like probably roll my eyes because this person sounds like they're trolling. But in reality, I would definitely like keep that eye roll a bit to myself, internalized. I think it's important to validate and explain to people like why they might have that conception of what intuitive eating is, like where that comes from. Again, there is a very, very good reason why nutrition gets deprioritized in our communications about intuitive eating. Like there's reason for that. And how many, like, I don't know, just kind of like well, I should say on top of that, like, a lot of the messages that get, the intuitive eating messages that get part of it's like social media, a lot of what gets engagement and gets feedback are these sort of like, yay, donut, ice cream kind of things that, for better or worse, that is part of what just kind of gets engagement, and that also like kind of feeds into the conversation. But yeah, I think how I usually explain it to people is that I really see my clients as being the ones who get to decide whether they want to engage with nutrition and how much headspace they want and energy they want nutrition to take up in their life. And there is no moral, like, it is not morally better to, to want to spend more energy on nutrition versus less energy. Like that is a very much a personal decision to make. And so my role as a dietitian is not to, just be like, forget it, like everything you learned about nutrition is false and don't ever think about it at all. It's really to understand my clients and help them better see like what is the role that nutrition can play in helping you live the type of life that like a life that aligns with your values and live just a happy life that makes you feel good. So yeah, so it's really all about individualizing nutrition. And I think that is probably what I would explain to this imaginary person with their concerns.
So that was amazing. And you kind of touched on something that I wanted to bring up. My dog's on high alert right now. I hear him, so hopefully he doesn't bark. But you kind of brought up the topic of clickbait, right? Like I think that social media and the things that get engagement, and this is a conversation that I have oftentimes with people in my DMs, using certain words or images or triggering type messaging is what gets the most engagement on social media, which can be such a downfall sometimes. But one of the things that I've personally had quite a few conversations with people about is the word healthy, and using the word healthy to define a recipe or type of food or eating. And, just I'm curious your take on defining the words or phrase healthy eating, specifically when, it's part of a cookbook or recipe development or so on and so forth. And I think what Sam and I have always said is it's always the intentions behind it, right? But explaining to someone that really just wants to fight, let's say, because that's who comes in my DMs, it seems like, how would you define healthy eating, quote unquote?
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point. So when I talk about health, and there's actually a chapter in the book on this, I think it is worth us trying to redefine the word healthy, because never using the word healthy ever again, like it's part of our language. It is just part of how, in order to make intuitive eating accessible to people, we have to not stay in a bubble of always using like the sort of like perfect intuitive eating language. Like we have to communicate things in a way that people who are not who are new to intuitive eating, we have to communicate in a way that they understand, while also leaving space for lots of nuance and not sort of like dumbing down or not making our message like only applicable to a certain sort of person. So I think it's really important that we redefine this word healthy and help people conceptualize it in a different way. So in this chapter that I have about redefining health, it talks a bit about how health is so much, basically like the thesis of it is that health is about a lot more than nutrition. Nutrition is part of our health. It's a piece of it, but it is not the end all kind of be all of health. So I think it's really like, if we're labeling a food as healthy, I don't know how useful that is. It's something that I've done in the past, and I know there's certain people who, for like SEO kind of purposes, of like search engine Google, people finding their stuff, like there may be reasons that they're using the phrase or using the word healthy to label food. it's one of those things, I don't know how useful it is, because a food in of itself cannot be healthy or unhealthy. Our choices might be a healthier choice, or really a health promoting choice, but that doesn't necessarily make a food healthy or unhealthy, because for a choice to be a healthy choice, like, it has to bring in these other aspects of our health, which is, things like, social or when I say bring in, I mean, be mindful of. Not necessarily we have to, every single food choice we make has to have every single aspect of health, but, it has to be mindful of, like, finances are part of health, like our financial condition. Our social connection is part of health. Our oh my goodness, my Friday brain is not thinking of anything else. But no, we have all these other aspects of health that we sort of ignore when we make health all about nutrition. When we put nutrition up on this health pedestal, it's turning food into something that it really just it is that it isn't. Mm-hmm.
Anytime somebody asks me this from now on, I'm just going to send this episode to them. And perfectly said, though, because fearing using the word healthy isn't a good thing for us either. I think that was really well said. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that was helpful. But yes, and I think it is worth being really conscious of the ways that we're using it. It's a tricky one, but yeah, that's what I hope to do with this book, and especially with that chapter, which I was really excited about.
I love how I think where your Friday brain was going, where I'm going to continue to take it, I hope, is the the determinants of health, right? Mm-hmm. And looking at also our physical environment, our medical care, our genetics and biology. And then you touched on the actual social connection.
Accessibility.
Accessibility, individual behaviors, like all of that encompasses health. And I love that you use the words health promoting behaviors and how that's different for everyone. Like for somebody who is restricting, right, and over exercising, a health promoting behavior would be rest. But for somebody else, right, that might be listening to this, that they really struggle to get up and to move their body. So a health promoting behavior might be walking for 10 minutes if that felt pleasant to them. Like health promoting behaviors, for those listening, it's not just like, here's a checklist of the 20 health promoting behaviors that you need to be doing. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's such an important piece of this conversation. And I'm so excited to read that chapter in your book.
Yes. No, what you said, like, it's all about kind of figuring, it's acknowledging like what's going on in the present moment, and the nuance of these decisions. Like, it really is impossible to say this is healthy or this is a health promoting behavior, because it just what's helpful for one person may not be helpful for another, for a whole host of different reasons. So we've really have to bring nuance into this conversation about health. Mm-hmm.
I gotta say that entering the intuitive eating nutrition world has brought the most incredible conversations and humans into my life, because prior to this, conversations were just so different with other health professionals. And it's just so incredible to know there's so many like-minded people out there. And it's such a gift that Sam and I can bring human beings like you onto this platform and share you with our community, because more people need to hear this message.
Well, I so appreciate it. I feel the exact same way. Conversations with people in the intuitive eating space have opened my eyes to so many different areas of life, and yeah, so very agreed.
I also I don't know why my brain is stuck on this, but earlier, so I'm just going to bring it up. So, and maybe it's because I recognize, I'm just going to say it. So you use the word flexibility, and I love that word, but I've seen so many other health professionals use that word to promote flexible dieting. So can you maybe, for listeners, kind of explain what you meant by bringing flexibility into their health and their nutrition versus someone who might promote, air quotes, flexible dieting.
Right. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you mentioned that. And that's actually not a connection that that I made for the number of times that I've used the word flexible in the book and in my life. Yeah. So I'm thinking a little bit on the spot, but I think that the difference really is that with flexible, air quote flexible dieting, the intention is weight loss. That is the goal there. It is not necessarily where health, we're promoting what it is looking at intentional weight loss as the goal outcome. And and my goodness, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about all these incredibly rigid plans that I've seen that label themselves as flexible, like like there's you could have 5 more grams of whatever one day versus like the next day, and it's just the way that flexibility is used. Oh my goodness, who are you? So yeah, really like the intention of flexible dieting is this goal of intentional weight loss. When I use the word flexible, I am not talking about weight loss being or intentional weight loss being a outcome that we are looking for. We're looking at what are things that we can do that, habits or behaviors that help you feel better in the here and now. And really talking about flexibility, like not so much being flexible with a plan, but flexible with like life. This morning I had a really early morning appointment with my accountant, and had to pull myself out of bed, and had stayed up way too late, like wrapping presents the night before, and felt really tired. And so the easiest thing for me was to swing by somewhere and pick up like a breakfast, like kind of biscuit sandwich. Like that was the easiest way to nourish my body. And so I'm being in that moment, I'm not being flexible with a plan or saying like, hey, that was my cheat breakfast or my like whatever. It is just, being, yes, I feel good when I eat like breakfast at home and make something that like whatever, but that is just me being flexible and living my life and making choices that, again, Friday brain, but just making choices that allow me to live my life in a way that feels good.
Thank you so much for clarifying that, because I don't think we've ever talked about that on this podcast. And the amount of dietitians that I'm really calling out dietitians today, but the amount of health professionals I see using that term and trying to, I wouldn't even call it fence straddling, because I would say that's just still firmly diet culture, but that they're trying to pretend like they're not restricting people, but using the word flexible. I love that you just totally like busted that myth open and called it out for what it was. So thank you. That was beautifully said.
It really was. There's been a lot of drama on social media this week. I don't know if either of you have seen it. I didn't talk to Sam about this beforehand, but I don't even know his last name, Max Lugerve, whatever his name is, posted something. I don't know have you seen it, Rachel? Your head's kind of like maybe. But he posted this very controversial post about dietitians, like went after us head first. I blocked him after this because I just couldn't read the comment section. And it was all about how there was some article on PubMed about dietitians being in recovery, and that's why we went into nutrition, and how now we're putting all of this anti-diet message, all foods fit message into clients' brains as a like protection source for ourselves. And it really angered me because I don't think people really understand this kind of conversation. And so I actually stopped reading the post because I was getting so heated from it. But I saw a lot of dietitians reposting it, like, tell me what the problem with helping people not fear food really is. And so I feel like your book really encompasses all of that and kind of takes away a lot of the confusion about what this space really is all about. Whereas if you do look on social media, it can be confusing. I think Evelyn Tribbley said that in our podcast episode. Like, if you want to be confused about intuitive eating, look up the hashtag. But, I think that just reading some pointers about bullet points on your book right now and really what it covers, I think it's a read that everybody really needs to understand about, like what you said, redefining health and really understanding how multifaceted health really is.
Right. Yeah. I just stood up taller in my seat because I didn't see where it originated from, but there was another kind of like Twitter conversation, and I responded to it. I was like, so I guess the point that this person is trying to make is that as intuitive eating HAES dietitians, like, we are clouded by our own sort of history of disordered eating and bias from that. And yet we're not having a conversation about how, this high prevalence of disordered eating and eating disorders among dietitians, like how that could be influencing our weight-centric and frankly, at times quite orthorexic curriculum. Like, how is it that, if we want to talk about how dietitians have high rates of disordered eating and are at risk for orthorexia, that is a really, really important conversation to have. But like, we also have to be honest about how that has influenced the way that mainstream nutrition talks about health and nutrition. You cannot just like pit that up. Like, is it true that I don't have a history of an eating disorder. There are many of us who don't, but is it accurate that many dietitians have a history of disordered eating, and they have found intuitive eating and they have found health at every size, and it's been incredibly healing for them? And could that influence their passion for it? Absolutely. There are also, like, we've done the work. Like, I've been working with clients for years and years and years and years using a non-diet approach. And I've listened to their stories and learned from them about the ways that this very rigid approach to nutrition and this, the way that, frankly, that diet culture has influenced how we view nutrition. Like, I've seen how that's harmed people, and I've seen how that, really has become a barrier for them actually doing things that improve their health and their quality of life. So yeah, that one, yes, I saw, long story short, it fired me up. I was complaining to my husband and sent off a few fiery tweets and a few text messages with some friends to roll my eyes at certain people who shall remain nameless, but yes.
Well, I think a lot of times too, with some of those, I don't know who this person was, but this kind of brings me back to when we did the episode with Jillian Michaels' take on it. And I think it comes down to back to the conversation we had about these people are just, they're misinformed. Like, they don't even know what they're talking about. And then they're just putting those things out there. I know Sciat Fitness did this. Jillian Michaels has done this. I'll call out anyone and happily have a conversation with them. But when
the guy's name, I gotta find it.
When they hear all foods fit and unconditional permission to eat, they think we're promoting binge eat as much as possible, eat all the fun play foods, like fuck nutrient dense foods. That's what they hear. Right. And I think that's where we need to send all these people your book because I think people can't grasp when they're so rooted in diet culture, they can't grasp that there's actually humans that have peace with food and enjoy nutrient density at the same time. Like, they're like, how could you have both? You guys just eat all the play foods. So once you have the true understanding that, yes, you have unconditional permission to eat, but once you have that, you actually nourish your bodies in ways that feel physically, mentally, emotionally pleasant. Like, I feel like because, like you said, Rachel, they haven't done the work. Mm-hmm. They can't even think that way. And then they're to these large audiences putting out this false information and these claims. So it looks like we're going to need to send your book straight to them.
Yes. And money.
Yeah.
All their businesses depend on people
Yeah.
being obsessed with weight loss. And
Yeah.
like, that's really the bottom line too. And that's hard to put in a tweet into the masses. Right. But I think that, you know, when you think about it, I actually put this in my post today because I posted hot chocolate on my Instagram story like last week. And the amount of people that were like, well, what kind is it? Like, how did you make it? What healthy ingredients are in it? And I was like, it's Swiss Miss. Like, and so I posted that today. And in there, I was just kind of talking about, you know, if you choose the Swiss Miss, but you have guilt and shame and anxiety and all of these emotions tied to choosing it because you feel like this is your cheat and so on and so forth, that's not healthy either. So that's really where this work becomes so important. But these people, these individuals do not want to have that conversation.
Right. Like that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, you know, nuance with the word healthy. Like if you are making a choice that you think is right or the healthy choice, and you are experiencing like intense, like, you know, anxiety or deprivation that goes along with it, like stress isn't great for health. So if you are eating in a way that makes you feel stressed out, like that isn't necessarily health promoting. I don't care how many like how many blueberries or how much kale you know you have per day. If you feel stressed about it, I don't know if that is really doing much for you. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But no, I'm so glad that that you said that, because I was literally I was like, I wonder if I can curse. Kind of getting to what.
Have you met Sam?
Have you seen my social media?
I mean, I figured, but I didn't want to be the first one. But kind of getting to what you were saying, like all I was thinking in my head is like, normalize shutting the fuck up until you learn about something. Like there, like it is.
That's the quote of the episode.
It is okay to shut up about your beliefs about intuitive eating until you actually like do the and health at every size, until you actually like learn about what it is. And then if you have any problems or concerns, like these are not paradigms that are without criticism. Like there's been some really fantastic critique of intuitive eating and HAES from dietitians of color, people like, you know, Jessica Wilson and you know, like there are just like wonderful things that I have, you know, people that I have listened to and learned from, but they actually took time to like understand the paradigms before talking. So yes, yes, that is, yeah, that annoys me.
So I want to bring it back to your book as
Yes.
we come to the final minutes of the pod. I know you have 50 plus recipes that incorporate gentle nutrition in here and centering pleasure and showing all foods fit. So I would love to hear, like, where'd you get the inspiration for the recipes? Are these family recipes that have been passed down? Like, where did these recipes come from?
Yeah. So, you know, one thing that when I started, you know, blogging and on social media, it was a very just kind of like recipe focused food blog, because I needed this like creative outlet. I was in a job that I was very much not happy, and it was a fun place to get creative in the kitchen. And you know, as I was working on this book, you know, I continue to, you know, share recipes occasionally and do recipe development. And that is just a fun, enjoyable thing for me. But one thing I've found in my work with clients is that for many people, when they actually like, there's the principles of intuitive eating and this sort of like intuitive eating knowledge, but oftentimes like we can use food as a way to demonstrate, you know, to put these intuitive eating principles in action. I don't think it should be the primary way, because there's a lot of issues that you know, challenges that come up with that. But yeah, I really, you know, I wanted to show people like, here's a way that you can, you know, add, you know, cook vegetables in a way that centers on pleasure and not like trying to reduce calories. Like, here's a place where, like, you know, let's use here's the baking function of using sugar and butter versus using something else. Like, I wanted to really approach food and nutrition from this culinary standpoint. So so the inspiration behind them, not like family recipes per se, but like just things that I really tried to think about, like, think about those goals when I was doing recipe development, and also to think about like just things that are simple, that are nourishing, that are adaptable, just really helping people get inspiration for feeding themselves with satisfying, pleasurable, enjoyable meals. So yeah, so it was kind of the inspiration there.
I love that. And Sam, I thought you were going to ask my exact question. I got so excited. But my question was going to be, my last question was, what's your favorite recipe in the book?
Oh, that's a good one. So,
I'm so excited for it now.
I finished up the recipe for. I have to go look through some of the pictures because they were finishing up with like the edits and putting everything together.
So exciting.
So the ones I like the most, I know I was really proud of this one because it came out really well. This like harissa rubbed chicken thighs, and they're over sort of like over like rice. It's like this one pot meal that's like really, really tasty and has like lovely spices, and it's like yummy skin on chicken thighs. So it gets nice and like crispy and golden. And I was very excited about how that one came out. It was one that like the first try came out of the oven. I was like, yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. And congratulations. That's amazing, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just excited for the book baby to be out there.
Yes. So tell everybody who's listening, one, where they can find you, and then two, where they can find this book on February 23rd, 2021.
Yeah, so you can find me either on my blog, which is rachelhartleynutrition.com, and Rachel is spelled AEL. You can also find me on Instagram, where I'm active and like to share lots of stories of my dog, Charlie the Saint Bernard, and that is at Rachael Hartley RD. And you can order the book now. You can go ahead and pre-order it on either Amazon, or I encourage you to order from Bookshop, which supports independent bookstores. You can go ahead and get the order in. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you are thinking about ordering, doing a pre-order. Apparently that makes a big difference for book sales and launching, and can kind of make or break a book release. So if you think you're gonna want to read it, go ahead and order.
Well, I will definitely be adding this to my Amazon like recommended books for our clients, and you will absolutely be getting lots of recommendations from us too right here.
And we'll make sure we get the episode out soon so people have time.
I really appreciate that.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of What the Actual Fork Pod. We know there are a lot of pods out there, and we are so grateful that you are here listening with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, share with all your friends and faves, and follow along with us on social at What the Actual Fork Pod. We promise to continue to bring you the hottest topics, greatest guests, and the most fun you can possibly have while fighting diet culture bullshit. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you next week for a lot more fun.